you. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. So I hope you all are doing good. So welcome all to the Yoga Research Study Circle under the umbrella of WHRF Women's Health Research Foundation. Yoga Research Study Circle is made to encourage the research work in the field of yoga and health. And all are welcome to enroll their research work and get the opportunity to publish their work and recognized. For further inquiry, you can connect with us in the Facebook and YouTube page of WHRS and Yogaguru. So with this information, let's start today's session, episode 14 of series 3. So our topic for today is Diastasis, Recti, causes and cure. So, which I suppose is the most needed knowledge we should have. So, with that, I would like to welcome Darshika Gupta ji for today's session, and she is joining us from Mumbai. Just before starting, I just want to give few information about her. That she pursued her BA honors journalism from Delhi University and business in German language specialist course from Max Muller Bhavan. Her own pregnancy and passion in fitness led her to pursue her career as internationally certified pre and postnatal fitness trainer. She works with pregnant and postpartum women to help them breathe, move, and carry out everyday's activity with correct form and posture. So she also helps postpartum women with the myths surrounding mommy bellies by bringing awareness about diastasis rectis and immediate postpartum weight loss. So with that, I would like to welcome Darshika ji. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reena ji. It's an honor to be speaking on this platform. And like as you mentioned, my own pregnancy and postpartum journey, it was fitness has always been my passion. I get it from my father, I guess. So it was my own pregnancy and postpartum journey that, led me to take this professionally, because I feel that there is not a lot of awareness still in India about postpartum phase, where I still get clients who call me up and who are like, I want to lose weight. I'm 2 months postpartum, I'm 6 months postpartum, and I have put on a lot of weight, and I just want to reduce all the weight. I want to reduce 10 kgs, or I want to reduce 15 kgs, how much ever they want to get back to their pre-pregnancy shape as soon as possible. So, and also they talk about, like you mentioned in my intro, about mommy belly. So they don't know that the mommy belly is not just fat, but it's a lot of process, the trauma of pregnancy and postpartum that our bodies go through. It's basically a combination of all the hormones, all the changes, how the gravitational force of a body changes during pregnancy, which leads to that mommy belly. And there can be no magic pill, there's no magic exercise, there's no magic pill to cure it. You have to give it time, you have to give it correct form of exercises, correct form of, and it's not only exercise that helps with it. It is basically your how you are handling your everyday activities that that helps you either cure your diastasis recti, or it might even worsen it. So this is what I'm going to be talking about. So for the ease of understanding, I have prepared a PPT, and I hope I'm able to, bring much awareness about it, and, I can help explain it easily in simpler form for all of us to understand. And I really hope that by the end of it, at least I can give you all something about some knowledge about, diastasis recti, which might help so many of us around. So let me just start. I'll just start sharing my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, Darshika ji, sir.
Okay. Just Okay, so I mean, if I may make it a little more interactive, I just wanted to know if you people have any idea about diastasis recti or what diastasis recti is. If any one of you would like to just, maybe join in or give me something about if you all know what is diastasis recti.
Yeah, I think because of like pregnancy, when the uterus and the stomach is growing, then there is like gap between the abs. That that gap is called that I think.
Yes, yes, Reenaji,
It's very
you are
simple.
very, yes, no, this is absolutely right. And I'm so glad that you know about it. Okay, so what we would be talking about is diastasis recti. Okay, like Reena ji mentioned, what is diastasis recti? So diastasis recti is basically the separation of, as Reena ji mentioned, it is the separation of our muscles. Just a minute, it's the screen. Yeah, so diastasis recti is nothing but the separation of our right and left side of the rectus abdominis muscles or six pack muscles. So if you see here in the picture, let me just highlight. So if you see this picture here, so these six pack abs that we see looks very good. So these six pack ab muscles, they are connected together. So what happens is due to the intra-abdominal pressure build during pregnancy or due to any other factors, so these muscles, they start to separate because this tissue, if you see this open if you see this picture, open diastasis, so what happens is that these two muscles, they start separating, they start moving away from each other, because and this condition is called diastasis recti. So if you see, this is a normal, if you see the first image, which says harrow normal, it's a normal position of our muscles, which we all have initially. Then what happens is it starts opening up due to the intra-abdominal pressure over the years or over the time, which builds up. Then you can also have a diastasis open below navel. So just below your navel also you can have it. You can have it above your navel, or you can have complete DR or diastasis recti, which means that both the muscles have separated from the top, up from top of the navel, at the navel, and below the navel. So what happens is that these rectus abdominis muscles or the six pack muscles, they are connected by this tissue called linea alba. So what happens is that these tissues, so there is this in the center. So suppose if this is the tissue, so this tissue holds our rectus abdominis muscles together. What happens is that due to the intra-abdominal pressure, this tissue starts becoming thin and weak. So what happens is that it isn't able to hold these muscles together any longer, and it starts to separate. So these, as and when this tissue weakens, these muscles, because the tissue is unable to hold them together, it's not strong enough anymore, these muscles, they start to separate and move away from each other. And this constant pressure from inside, which is also called intra-abdominal pressure, it keeps over the time. It doesn't happen in a day, it doesn't happen in a week or in a month, but over the time, it just starts thinning and weakening, and it starts disconnecting, and the muscle starts moving away. Okay, so a lot of people come to me and they say that we don't know if we have DR or not. We have some gap between our, between the muscles, the rectus abdominis muscles. So any gap which is greater than 2.7 centimeter or 2 fingers width size is, so suppose if you can easily insert 2 fingers, so if you check it and if you feel that you can insert 2 fingers between these muscles here, so that means you have DR. Or so finger for a male finger and a female finger varies in the width. So an ideal way is 2.7 centimeter of gap between these two rectus abdominis muscles. Okay, so not everybody knows how to check it by, inserting the fingers. So in that case, we also get a lot of clients who say that, ma'am, when I lie down or I do any core exercises, I feel that there is this bulge on my belly. So if you see my screen, so this is the picture of one of my clients. So she shared her picture with me. So if you all see the pointer, and I've also highlighted this area. So she's just lying down normally on her bed, and her husband clicked this picture for her. So if I hope all of you can see this bulge in her belly, this doom-like shape in the belly. So this means that she has DR. The degree of DR, up to what level of gap is there, is something which we cannot look at the picture and tell correctly. But this doming means that she, for 100%, she has DR, and there is no doubt about it. Okay, now we all know what DR is. Now let's move to the causes of DR or diastasis recti. So the only cause of diastasis recti is intra-abdominal pressure. However, this intra-abdominal pressure could be caused by one, pregnancy. So all the women, 100% of women during their third trimester will have diastasis recti, no matter what. However, the degree of DR will vary. So when I say the degree of DR will vary, that means somebody might have just 2-finger gap. Some women who have had bigger bellies might have 3-finger gap. Somebody carrying twins might have 4 to 5-finger gap. So it totally depends. So it totally depends on the degree of DR, the degree of DR that they will have. However, every woman, whenever pregnant, will get DR, and there's no exception to it. And DR, and basically, I would say it's a common process of our body to in order to accommodate the growing belly and the growing baby. Okay, the second cause of intra-abdominal pressure is obesity or excessive belly fat. So if somebody is obese or carries excessive belly fat, so imagine that there is constant pressure of the fat on this tissue. So over the time, over months, over years, the organs and the fat behind, so are all the organs like intestines and everything is protected by these two rectus abdominis muscles here. So now imagine if you are fat, you are obese, you're carrying excessive belly fat for years. So imagine the kind of pressure it's going to put on the tissue here. So the tissue is not strong enough to hold it for very long. So what happens is, because of this intra-abdominal pressure from the inside, this tissue starts to separate again. And that is why obesity or excessive belly fat also causes DR. Okay, now third point is heavy weightlifting. So if you have noticed, or if you must have seen, there are pictures of bodybuilders who go for championships and all. Some of them might have DR. Why? Because if you lift extremely heavy weights and you are not engaging your core properly, then it's going to start building up that intra-abdominal pressure. How? What happens is, if you haven't braced your core properly, that means if you haven't really provided that internal pressure from your body while you brace your core from the external force of the weights, over the long run, your body is unable to handle that pressure. And because of that, again, the intra-abdominal pressure builds and the tissue starts weakening and the muscles start separating. Then fourth is gut health issues, which means frequent bloating and constipation. So a lot of people come to us who have DR, who already have had DR, and they have constant bloating and constipation. So when we address their bloating and constipation issues, they feel that their DR has also started to heal. Why? Because if you're constantly bloated and constipated, again, there is this intra-abdominal pressure from the intestines on your linea alba. So again, constant pressure on this tissue again, it become weak and it starts to separate. Then chronic coughing or sneezing. So a lot of people have this chronic coughing and sneezing issue. So many a times we have clients, when we assess them in the class, what happens is we ask them to show us how they cough or they sneeze. So while they don't know what they are doing, so they just cough and sneeze, and that by the way they cough and sneeze, we can tell that whether they can have DR issues or not. Why? Because when they're coughing or sneezing, the way they manage that intra-abdominal pressure is not correct. So we have a lot of clients who come to us, and when they cough or sneeze, their belly moves out. So imagine that if somebody has chronic coughing or sneezing, and they're constantly coughing and sneezing, and their belly is pushing out. So all the organs are again putting that internal force on the tissue. Then again, over the years, it weakens and it starts to separate. Then again, wrong exercises with poor form or strategy. So I don't know if you must have heard that, a lot of people, they do deadlifts. And then they say, oh my God, deadlift kar rahe the, they got issues with the back. So it is nothing but unmanaged or mismanaged intra-abdominal pressure while doing heavy exercises or certain exercises without proper form. So a lot of people, so I lift heavy weights. So a lot of people tell me, oh my God, you lift such heavy weights, you will get back issues. You deadlift so much weight, you will get back issues. No, it's not the exercise which is a problem. It's the engagement of our overall core and the intra-abdominal pressure which leads to this problem. So the exercise is not at fault. The wrong form of that exercise, performing that exercise in a wrong form, is the fault. Then the most neglected aspect of diastasis recti is the wrong or mismanaged alignment, which I will explain in the further slides. So if you see here, like I was mentioning about the bodybuilders also having DR. So if you see these three images, the very first image, this person is a professional bodybuilder. I hope you all can see that he has DR, and which is very evident here in the picture. There's a lot of gap between his rectus abdominis muscles above the navel. So same is in the second picture and the third picture. So this center picture is of a normal person who has less body fat, but still she has DR. However, the first and the third picture are of the bodybuilders. Because of mismanaged, form or intra-abdominal pressure, they have DR. So it's not that people with six-pack abs don't have DR. They also have DR. People with excessive body fat or belly fat, they also have DR. So let's move to intra-abdominal pressure. Like I said, any kind of pressure on the abdomen from inside is called intra-abdominal pressure. So it's just like, it's like a balloon. So think of a growing belly expanding like a balloon. It keeps on expanding. So this is the original form. It keeps on expanding. It keeps on getting thin. The tissue thinning and the muscles are separating. So as you blow air in the balloon, the pressure, so if you're blowing a balloon, so the balloon is expanding in all the directions, right? So there is a point up to which you can fill that air in the balloon as well. After a point, if you still continue to fill that air in the balloon bursts. So same is with the mismanaged or unmanaged intra-abdominal pressure. Over the years, if you do not manage it well, you will have DR. And if you don't manage that DR, you will get umbilical hernia as well. So this is what happens if the pressure is not managed. So if you see this picture here, this person has umbilical hernia. So what happens? How does umbilical hernia occurs? So once the tissue starts to weaken and thin, so the muscles, those are protecting the organs behind. So if you see, the muscles are protecting your intestines. So what happens is the muscles were strong enough to protect your organs. But as and when they start to separate, it's already the weakened and the thin tissue which is protecting your organs. And the organs, if they're constantly putting pressure on that already thin and weakened tissue, how is the tissue going to hold up? So then, as a result of which, you get umbilical hernia. So we do have clients who come to us because they had to undergo a surgery for hernia. However, their core muscles are so weak that doctors tell them that the core muscles are so weak that it cannot even handle a surgery. So they come to us because they want to strengthen their core muscles up to certain point where they don't have to go in for a surgery, or their muscles are strong enough to hold, to take that surgery and hold the after effects of it. So we have clients who come to us with hernia. They have been referred to their doctor by us. So in some cases, we are able to help them up to a level where when they go back to their doctors, the doctor says that you don't need to have a surgery right away. You can wait and see how it is progressing, and you might not need a surgery altogether. However, it's no magic. It's client's effort along with the coach's effort, which is I would say it requires a lot of patience and dedication. So it's not that if you have had hernia, you have to go for a surgery, or if you have DR, you have to go for a surgery to correct it. If cured on time with proper care and dedication, even you can prevent surgery for hernia. So now let's come to curing diastasis recti. So the very important thing is focusing on a neutral alignment. So what does neutral alignment means? Neutral alignment means how you sit, how your body, how overall activities, how you sit, how you stand, how you walk. So if you see this picture here, this lady in the first figure 1, if you see the way she's sitting on this chair, she's slouching, she's laid back. So if you see, she's not in a proper alignment. When I say proper alignment means that if you look at her ears and shoulders, they are in line. However, her shoulders and her hips, they are out of line. They're not in a straight line. So now what happens is when she's sitting in this lean back posture, right? So when she's leaning back on the chair, her linea alba, which is connected to the sternum in the top and pubic bone at the bottom, it is stretching. So it's not that. So the linea alba, if it stretches sideways or it stretches upwards, unnecessary stretch from the sides or from the up and down will definitely weaken it. So it's not just that the muscle separates sideways, the tissue gets weakened if you stretch it from top to bottom, top and bottom as well. So if you look at this figure, the lady, so the way she's sitting, her linea alba is going to stretch from the top and the bottom as well. So again, which means it's going to weaken further. So the correct posture to sit is the figure 2, where her ears, shoulders, and her hips are in a straight line. And if you see, her hips and knees are also in a straight line, along with her knees and ankles being in a straight line. So overall, she's making a 90-degree angle with her pelvis and her knees and her ankles. So this is the correct way to sit. So a lot of clients, they come to us and they tell us, you are just making us sit properly, you're just making us lie down properly and things like that. But over the time, when they practice these things and they see the impact these small little things have in the healing of their DR, even they are amazed. Now let's talk about our standing postures. So what happens is most of the women, I would say 95% of the women face this issue of disalignment, which is called lumbar lordosis, which is the second figure from your left. So if you see this figure, so this, if you see the belly of this person is pushed forward. So what happens is when you are pregnant, our center of the gravity shifts forward because of the growing belly. So now when you shift forward, so if you see, his pelvis is tilted down. It is no longer straight. And wherein, if you see this figure, the very first figure, which says good posture, the first figure from your right says good posture. So what is a good posture? When your ears, shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles are in a straight line. So this is a good posture. Now, in pregnancy, what happens is called lumbar lordosis. What happens is the pelvis shifts down, or which is also called an anterior pelvic tilt. So it faces towards the floor, the belly moves out, because of which, if you see, the chest has also moved out. And if you look at the feet of this particular person with lumbar lordosis, if you observe this person's feet, they are in a slight V shape. So just a slight shift in the center of gravity with your belly moving out, see how the feet have also turned out. So correcting this, so now imagine the pressure it is causing on the linea alba. It's like moving out with all the pressure, with the center of gravity shifting. The pressure is from the internal organs. The tissue is weakening over the time. It's weakening, 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 which is leading to DR or diastasis recti. Now let's talk about this thoracic kyphosis, where a person, if you see, a lot of people would stand with their shoulders dropping down. How does this impact diastasis recti? If you see this person, the back is hunched, the pelvis turns outward or posterior pelvic tilt. Now what happens is, because his shoulders are droopy, he's in a slight crunch position. So if somebody is always in a slight crunch position, so the rib cage is not stacked over the pelvis, and wherein a person is constantly, so the tissues all constantly under pressure. It is not relaxed. So we do have clients. So most of the clients that come to us, both men and women, have either lumbar lordosis or thoracic kyphosis, where they have droopy shoulders. Then we also have few clients coming up with this posture, forward head. So again, with the forward head posture, if you see this person's fist, the fists are facing back and clenched. So the fist, just a slight change in a body posture changes the entire alignment of your body. So if you have to fix your DR or you have to address your hernia, focusing on a neutral alignment is a must. The very first thing that we teach our client when they come to us to heal their diastasis recti or correct their hernia is we teach them neutral alignment. Okay, now then second comes is core rehabilitation and strengthening. So a lot of people come to us and they just ask us, I hope that my doctor has said that I'm not, because I have diastasis recti, I am not allowed to do any core exercises. So we tell them that we do not do that. We focus mostly on core rehabilitation. So when we talk about core rehabilitation and strengthening, so there are a lot of exercises which are diastasis recti safe. So they are not your traditional or ab exercises like crunches, twisting, turning, Russian twist, and all those things. So in order to heal your diastasis recti, we have to work on strengthening the core muscles, the internal and the deep core muscles, which is called a transverse abdominis muscles. So we focus a lot on that. We have to strengthen your core, overall core muscles, so that it helps your tissue, it helps your rectus abdominis to come together. Then, like I mentioned, while you cure DR, you cannot do traditional core exercises like crunches, planks. Why? Because your core is so weak, the tissue is so weak. If you will crunch or you will do planks, you are unable to hold your core for that. You cannot engage your core because the muscle mind connection is lost. The muscle mind connection between your core and the brain is lost, because of which at the first place you have had DR. So this is why if you cannot engage your core in the traditional core exercises, so we totally tell them, because you've lost the connection, you have to start working on rebuilding that connection first. So core rehabilitation is also about building that lost connection between your mind and your core muscles. Okay, so now avoid unnecessary twisting and turning. So what does this mean? So twisting, or twisting. So this is twisting. Now turning. If I'm sitting here, what we usually do, if I have to pick something from my couch, so if there's a remote I want to pick, I'll just turn like this and I'll pick it up and I'll sit back. So this is unnecessarily twisting and turning. This is something which should be totally avoided if you want to heal your diastasis. Why? Because the tissue is already weak, right? The tissue is already weak. Now you're twisting it and turning it unnecessarily. It's weakening further. So this is why we ask our clients to avoid unnecessarily twisting and turning. Now, proper form or core engagement during ADLs. What are ADLs? ADLs are your activities of daily living. So you have to learn how to engage your core while you are doing activities of daily living. Activities of daily living, for example, for a new mother is her lifting her baby 10 times from the bed, changing her diaper, changing her nappy, giving her baby a bath. So all these things are very important. Why? Because the core is already so weak. If you don't know how to engage your core properly, you come to us, you exercise for 1 hour, but for the rest of the day, if you don't know how to manage that pressure, how to hold your core together, it will not do any good. So focusing on correcting the form and learning core engagement through the activities that you do throughout the day is again a very crucial thing to learn and address. Now, avoid unilateral exercises. What are unilateral exercises? Unilateral exercises are any exercise wherein you are not using both your legs together, but on your one leg. So even lunges, we ask our clients to avoid during the initial stages. Why? Because the body is not stable on both the feet together. Why? Because it is our core that is responsible for our body's stability. So now, since your core is so weak, then how are you going to stabilize yourself on one foot? So, standing on one foot for long, or one leg for long, or then you have exercises wherein, you do step ups and all those things. So we ask them to avoid unilateral exercises for some time, till the time their core is at least slightly strong enough to give them that balance that the body needs. Now, no Bosu ball or uneven or unstable surfaces. So again, for the same reasons, like those Bosu ball, if you are doing the Bosu balls are the balls where, you have to stabilize yourself and perform the exercises. So we ask them to avoid that. Why? Because the stability in the body comes from the core. If your core is not strong enough, how will you stabilize yourself on that Bosu ball, right? So which might lead to further injuries. Now, then comes focus on healthy weight loss. Healthy weight loss means losing the weight. So like I mentioned in the beginning of the class that, I have had clients who come to me, oh, I have put on 15 kgs. Now I am 2 months postpartum. I want to reduce 15 kgs in 3 months, which might not be practical, which is actually not practical. 5 kgs a month, unless you're extremely obese. So reducing the weight in the right way is very important. Why? Because you have to give your body some time. For instance, like during my postpartum, during my pregnancy, I had put on 30 kgs of weight of some medical conditions. But then I was one of these women who come to me today that, I had put on 30 kgs. Now I was like, oh my God, I am 3 months postpartum. Now I have to reduce this 30 kg ASAP. And then I did do some things which didn't suit my body, and it did take a toll on my body. I tried reducing the weight the wrong way. I had zero knowledge about DR. I did not even know there's a term called diastasis recti which existed. So it was, and then I mean, it was a terrible experience for me, to be very honest. So that is the whole reason I got into this, this particular niche of pre and postnatal fitness. Why? Because I did suffer during my postpartum phase, and I don't. So I thought that maybe people can learn from my experience, and I can bring awareness to a lot of women like me, that that this is what it is. You shouldn't rush into things. Give your body time, show it love that it deserves. And then again, the very important aspect is connection breathing exercises. So connection breathing exercises means that during pregnancy, especially after a C-section, when you get a cut, the muscle, there are certain muscles, the connective tissues that get so there's this when once the skin is stitched back together, so there are certain sensory nerves and all, which loses the connection. So the connection between the brain and the core is disturbed. So especially for C-section women, the connection, learning to connect your brain with your core is very important. So that is also one thing which we focus on a lot. Now comes facts about diastasis. So an interesting fact about diastasis is that every human is born with diastasis. So if you see infants or toddlers, the belly button is popping out. So all of us women, all of us humans, we are born with that diastasis recti. However, these muscles, they get stronger, come together once the baby turns 5. Then DR is a normal and a natural process of pregnancy to accommodate the growing belly. So it is very natural. So in some cases, like I mentioned earlier, if a woman is carrying a single fetus, if a woman is carrying twins, triplets, the degree of DR depends on that. So mostly DR happens in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy to 100% of women. If managed on time, the DR can heal within 6 months post-pregnancy. If not managed or addressed at the right time, the gap might remain the same, or the gap might even increase and can lead to hernia. So even men can have DR. A lot of people think that it's only women who get DR, but even men can have DR because even they can have intra-abdominal pressure. So again, unmanaged diastasis recti may lead to umbilical hernia, just like how I explained in one of the slides. So DR can be healed by corrective exercises, and surgery is not really necessary until and unless it is like a huge gap. So I have dealt with a client who had 8-finger gap. So it was really bad for her. It took her a lot of time, but then she was able to, get her gap to 4 fingers. Now, how to check DR? So there is this one way of testing it through finger test. Like I said, if any gap between more than 2 fingers is DR. However, the width of my finger, the width of a man's finger will vary. So when you check DR, you check it both for the width. So if you check it like this, if it's for width as well as the depth. So when I say depth, so how much, this is about the gap, but how much weakness is there in the tissue. So if I'm trying to insert my finger, so if I'm lying it down like this, if I insert my finger here, and if I can insert 3 fingers between these 2 muscles here, so it's a 3-finger gap. Now, if I try and poke my finger in, so I should know how much finger is going in my belly before I feel that pulse in the tip of my finger, on the tip of my finger. So if it is going this much, this means 1 knuckle, it is normal. 2 finger, higher. If the entire finger can go in and I feel the pulsing here, that means that the tissue is very weak. So, and getting the very weak tissue together takes a lot more time than closing the gap. So that is one thing which is very important. The second thing, the second way that you can check your DR is just to go for an abdominal scan. So anybody, you walk into a pathology, you just tell the pathologist that that this, you want to check yourself for diastasis recti. So they will do an abdominal scan on you, and that would give you an idea that the gap and the depth of your diastasis recti. Okay, now extremely fat or obese people should focus on reducing the fat first before they go and check for the DR. Why? Because the high fat percentage might not let you check the DR correctly through finger or even the scan. So many a times what happens if somebody has come with a huge belly to us. So what we focus on first thing is that we want to get their fat percentage up to a point where it is easy for us to check them for the DR. Why? Because if the fat percentage is too high, how will you know how much? Absolutely. Then definitely the entire finger is going to go through the fat. You will not even reach the muscles or the tissue. So this is why it is very important for the obese people to first reduce certain, certain amount of body fat and then get themselves checked for diastasis recti. So this is so much from my side, and I hope it was informative enough and I didn't really confuse you guys. So, I mean, over to you, Reena ji. Any questions or?
Yeah, thank you for this wonderful explanation. I have few questions like first question that you already explained, but just I got this question from our viewers. Like how long does it take to heal diastasis recti?
So, Reena ji, like I said, it totally depends from person to person. So, for some women, it even heals naturally. Post pregnancy, within 6 months, their DR can heal naturally. Somebody who has higher gaps, so suppose 4 fingers, 3 fingers, if they manage it correctly, treat it on time, up to a year. There are a few people who come with, like I mentioned, 8-finger gap. For them, depending upon how they are handling and managing their diastasis recti. So I wouldn't say that there's a fixed or specific timeline for that. It totally depends on how you are trying to manage that DR, what corrective measures you are taking. So that is totally dependent upon the client. So when the client comes to us, we say that it's totally dependent upon you. How, even apart from the exercises, like I mentioned, how you do your activities of daily living plays a major role. Your posture, how you're sitting through the day. So it totally, there's no timeline for it, I would say. Patience is the key here.
Yeah, right. Yes, very much right you said. And the one more question we have, that can we heal, like you said, we can heal that completely with, but if once it heals, then can it happens again?
Oh yes, for sure. So suppose if I had diastasis, I healed it once. If I get pregnant again, definitely it will happen. A. B. So suppose if I got pregnant twice also, I got diastasis, I healed myself. Then if I do not manage my intra-abdominal pressure well, or if I put on a lot of weight, belly fat, or if I move back into the way I was doing before, then definitely DR can happen again. Even if it is healed once, twice, thrice, it can happen again if not managed correctly and properly.
Okay. Thank you. So that was the two questions that it was there. Thank you for today's session, and that was very wonderful and so that briefly explained. It's very actually explained so well that everyone it's a must needed knowledge that one should have. That especially like pregnant women and especially women after pregnancy, because they are very like in their mid that mommy belly, and they are in sometimes they are in depression as well because of that fat. And I hope that session would help all of us and all of us actually. So, and as you said, that normal and natural process, it's very normal and natural process in pregnancy, and anyone can have that. But with the good cure and proper alignment and proper exercise, we can cure it completely. So
Absolutely, Reena ji, absolutely.
yeah,
So we
so
don't really have to fear it, I would say. We just have to be patient with ourselves and treat it correctly. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great session. It's nice to see you. I hope we'll see you again in our sessions with more
Absolutely,
topics and more
Energy.
knowledge we'll get from you.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to, speak on this platform, a very big opportunity for me. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, our viewers and everyone. So that's for the day, and we'll see you next Sunday, same time with other topic. So till then,